Have you ever noticed these statues scattered across Night City? They each have a similar design with a multi-handed figure holding both a sword and an orb, and very notably a circuitry design in the center. There are 8 of these in total scattered all across Night City, and they even come in various sizes, some being very small while some others are very large. And a few of these statues have the very notable characteristic of reading FF06B5, which when used as a color code will translate to shocking pink. This is Cyberpunk 2077's largest unsolved mystery, what these structures are, what FF06B5 actually means, and finding the solution to this mystery has spanned multiple years of investigation, maybe related to the ongoing Cyberpunk 2077 ARG that has clues both in-game and in-person, which also just recently got some updates we'll talk about in this video, and even earlier this year we got further clues on FF06B5 in the Witcher 3 Next Gen, so this is now a multi-game ARG. But despite how large and enduring this mystery has been, it seems like it may all be coming to an end very soon. As with patch 2.0, both the gigantic FF06B5 mystery and the ongoing ARG are now much closer to being solved, to the point where we're almost there and it may be happening in just the next couple of weeks. And I'll even help you figure out the mystery of what game to play tonight. With today's video sponsor, Dragonair Silent Gods will take you on an open world fantasy RPG adventure through the world of Adenthia. You'll find yourself intertwined in a story with love, revenge, but then even some mystery. During this, you'll encounter over 280 unique scenes, and that's where some of those classic D&D or TRPG elements come out. Things like dice rolls that could lead to some incredibly fun unpredictability, but there's also a fully custom character creator as well as tons of epic dungeon duels. There's a thrill to the unpredictability though, and you really don't know where things will go as you encounter twisting NPC quests and even some puzzles to solve. But to underlie all of this will be the special traits of your own fully created character. There are a bunch of character classes to choose from in Dragonair with tons of attributes to customize so your playthrough truly feels unique. But this is a story with some bloodshed. You'll have to use your own abilities to get through conflict, using things like perfect combos and even taking advantage of battleground features. But there are also just some cool immersive moments in Dragonair, like trying to recruit NPCs via a drinking game or the true consequences of theft and failed romance. And the best part is you can play basically anywhere, as Dragonair is available on PC through the Epic Games Store and coming to Steam later, but also Mac and even mobile. Dragonair was even highlighted at Apple's WWDC 2023 for epic features like spatial audio and variable refresh rate. And Dragonair is the second blockbuster product released by Nuverse, the distributor of Marvel Snap, so you know you're getting something good. And you can dive in right now just by clicking that link in the description box to download Dragonair today. Immediately after the release of patch 2.0, new discoveries around FF06B5 were made, and like in the couple of hours after the patch was released, people are already finding things. One Reddit user discovered that this church that you go to in the Nomad prologue has had its interior revamped and open, so now you can actually enter it, as well as it's going to feature a variety of mysterious things. As it seems like whoever was living in this church was somebody trying to figure out the FF06B5 mystery in Night City. This person is named Polyhister, as we can see from some of the emails on their computer. In the room overall, you're going to find several servers, a computer, a new arcade game, as well as the remnants of somebody who appear to be highly invested in figuring this all out. A polyhister also may be a clue. This is also known as a polymath, and it's used to describe somebody who's very proficient in numerous subjects, such as Leonardo da Vinci, being good at both art and inventing and an engineer. So in many ways, this character who's living here is meant to be a parallel to the community online, those trying to figure out FF06B5 who do have a variety of skills and are yet sometimes a bit crazed in finding the solution to this mystery. And the first new clue that can be uncovered here are from the emails on this computer. We can see there is a bit of a community in-game trying to figure out this mystery, as Teddy Bella emails Polyhister about a spectroscopic analysis being done. Just review the spectroscopic data you sent me. Some anomalies, yeah, but nothing to tickle your testes over. Not yet, anyway. Might just be poorly calibrated equipment. In any case, gonna rerun the analysis on a different set of parameters. The bacteriophage theory is a pretty damn sexy one, gotta say, but don't want to warp the facts just to fit what we think we're looking for. I'll send you a crosstab with the results. Take a look when you get the chance. Maybe you can squeeze more juice out of this than I can. What we find here are two investigators trying a spectroscopic analysis on one of the statues. A spectroscopic analysis basically tests the interaction of matter with EM radiation, aka light rays. So using this analysis, you can uncover more about the composition of something. It seems like here they are specifically testing one of the statues for bacteriophage, which is a virus that replicates in bacteria. And this virus just so happens to honestly look pretty similar to one of the statues, so that's probably where the theory came from. Polyhister had a theory that these statues were connected to this bacteriophage, since they do look similar, and asked one of his buddies to run an analysis to test that, but it didn't work out. And they even have that nice line about not warping the facts to fit what you think, which is likely going to suggest that this theory is worth abandoning, and almost being a direct message to the community of investigators looking into this mystery. This first email is pretty important as it kind of clues you in as to the true meaning as to the rest of the emails. There's going to be a second email with Celestial69, talking about the monks being up to zilch, just pacing back and forth. This is a reference to the monks who sit outside the prime FF06B5 statue. There have been a ton of theories and investigations into these monks over the years, as they're really one of the few things that can be closely associated with one of the statues. So this email are the two in-game characters doing the same thing as the community, trying to investigate these monks, and it basically seems like this is confirmation that the monks are nothing. They're just a red herring and aren't going to lead anywhere. And the email ends by saying that these two should go get drunk in the city and perhaps things will become more clear then. And it also asks what the difference between magenta and fuchsia is anyway, which is a commentary on FF06B5 as a color code, as those two colors are very close to shocking pink and even have very close color codes as well. And if you've been following FF06B5, the second email is honestly hilarious. It's basically just what the community has actually been doing over the past few years, and now we're seeing in-game characters do the same thing roughly. But things spice up and progress for real with a third email from Tyro Manta. I have it, Polyhister, I'm not wrong this time. I just need more time to understand. First things first, you probably think I've finally lost my mind. Maybe. In truth, I began to doubt whether the answer we were looking for could ever be found. What if we sought meaning where none existed? But I know now that we were right. To find the correct path forward, I had to first leave the wrong one I was already following. That's when I found it. I'll be honest, I slipped into a dark pit of apathy and despair. I left the net to seek solace in a world of fleeting physical pleasures. I needed to feel something, anything. As I wandered Night City, I found an old arcade, vintage games. I had forgotten such places existed, even though in a previous life they used to be my home away from home. That's where I saw it, a sign, FF06B5, a pixel hidden in code over 60 years old. Do you understand what this means? The path we must follow goes much farther and much deeper than we could have imagined. From this point on, none of us are safe. They know the secret is out. This will be my last message. I'm leaving, taking nothing with me but my laptop. You have to discover for yourself what I have. I told you once about a game that changed my life. Think back and remember it, because the same game has changed my life a second time, and now it will change yours. So of course, this message is super interesting. It seems like Tyro Manta has figured out FF06B5, and it's all tied to some 60-year-old game, and more specifically, a pixel in that game, which naturally is going to point you towards the Arasaka Tower 3D arcade game that is placed right in the same room. And as an aside, Tyro Manta may be a reference to Tyromancy. This is going to be the study of the coagulation of cheese. There is literally a cheese quest in The Witcher 3, and there has been some digging into a potential connection there, but thus far nothing has been found, and I just wanted to bring this up just in case. In the Files tab of the same computer, we could get some more insights. There's a file named copy magenta hxf log, which seems to be some kind of program running a sequence but yielding no results. Based off the magenta naming, it seems like this is a clue that the color is not the solution here, so shocking pink is likely not the solution. But then we get a personal note written by Polyhister themselves with a new beginning. I almost laugh when I think of all the time wasted on those sad, conjured up theories of mine. I felt genuine relief when I purged my previous notes, the gibberish of a self-proclaimed genius turned fool. Embarrassing. It was Tyro Manta who lifted the veil of secrecy. The first of us with such a breakthrough, I couldn't believe it until I saw it myself. A long-forgotten, archaic game, and within it, not an answer but a clue. The keyhole we must find is a door we took for a wall. For the time being, I've cut off all network connections to the mainframe and programmed it to accept 8 data points. It's time to break the news to my brothers and sisters in Night City, face to face. I owe them that. Besides, Tyro Manta was right. Our email correspondence puts us all at too much risk. This even further points the arrow at the Arasaka Tower game, but I found the last line to be pretty interesting. Emails putting the searchers at risk, but risk of what? Thus far, there's been very little sense of threat in the FF06B5 mystery overall, but it seems like these people in game are definitely afraid of something, although we don't really know what yet. Looking over at Arasaka Tower 3D, This is an old arcade game where you play as Johnny Silverhand sieging Arasaka Tower, which of course he did actually do. We can see this from the flashback segments in Cyberpunk 2077. The game overall is pretty simple as you take down enemies in a certain amount of time, and it seems to be based off of Wolfenstein 3D, which was a game from the early 90s. And at the end of each level, you can go down to a lower floor. On the first two floors, there are some false walls. Basically just stand next to a certain wall for a second, and you're going to find the wall drop and some things behind, specifically Johnny's aviators, which seem to act as armor in this game. This, of course, being clued to us from that note from Polyhister who said, "The keyhole we must find is in a door we took for a wall." And it's on the third level, floor 52, where things start to get truly interesting. This level is much larger, and as you explore through, you'll find some interesting pink supports. But more importantly, an FF06B5 statue placed in one of the rooms along with the numbers 940204 written on the pink wall. And the statue itself even features a shocking pink circuitry section right in the middle. As you progress further on floor 52, you can find other numbers written on the wall. One of these will just be within a server room and it reads 941229, while another is behind a false wall that will only drop if you walk into this room with the statue. And this number behind the false wall is the same one as the one in the statue room with 940204, certainly giving this number a bit more significance as it appears twice. From there, on the last few floors, there isn't much. A couple more false walls with healing items, and on the final floor is a boss fight with Atom Smasher. But where things get interesting is after you beat the game, take out Atom Smasher and jump back into the elevator, and we can find ourselves at the bottom listed as Polyhister with a score of FF06B5, but then several other scores that do seem familiar. The top score is from Blackhand, which is likely a reference to Morgan Blackhand. This is a character who is massive in the Cyberpunk lore, being a top solo and also one of the people that raided Arasaka Tower with Johnny Silverhand. But after that, Morgan Blackhand disappeared and has never been heard from since. His score is notable as it is 941229, that being the number written on the wall in the server room. In second place is Murphy, this likely being a reference to Spider Murphy, another member that raided Arasaka Tower with Johnny and Morgan Blackhand. Although this character actually appears during the flashback scene in Cyberpunk 2077, and Spider Murphy does survive the raid and just continues on to live her life after the fact. And her score again is notable as it's the number to appear behind the false wall and in the room with the statue. These final two scores with the names associated with them are a mystery. It's not clear if these are significant at all or even who these people may be. And by some miracle, the dedicated group of users over on the FF06B5 subreddit and especially on the Discord did manage to put all of this together to mean something. As the solution to all of this is to stand in the server room with the Blackhand number on the wall and wait for this timer as a part of the game to reach 272.0, and then the floor section of your HUD will instead turn into a lock. And once you do this, that secret back door that would typically reveal the number now reveals an entirely new room with a statue sitting in the back. On the walls in this room are numbers, the evens on one side and the odds on another. And when you tap certain numbers on the wall, little keys will overlay the lock. In total, you need to tap 6 numbers and specifically tap the numbers 240891, and you have to do it in that order. After doing so, the keys will come together and the lock is replaced with a floor number once again. And from here, once you have seemingly unlocked the lock, you just get onto the elevator to go down, and all of a sudden you'll pop up on a totally new floor with -10. On this new floor, you'll find blue walls with two notable differences here. Some of the walls, as you wander around, will have QR codes listed on them. There's no enemies on this floor, there's no need for combat at all. As well as you bump up against some walls, you'll notice they're actually false walls that will drop to reveal a new pathway. And what we're going to be looking at here is a maze with some false paths and dead ends, but there's definitely a path to follow that was thankfully found by the FF06B5 community who have mapped this out along with all of the other floors as a part of this game. Interestingly, what you can see on the path to the solution is it seems to spell out DM plus TV or even DWT-TV. It's not entirely clear what this means or if it's significant, but it definitely is notable. But though I'm just kind of going through this relatively quickly, I think for a moment we do need to back up and just appreciate the absurdity of this all. Like, largely through trial and error and a bunch of luck, this community found all of this. There just so happened to be somebody walking into the server room at roughly the right time. That was just found by chance. And when it comes to these keys, community members had to try tons of different number combos to get these keys to align perfectly. It's not like the number 240891 means anything, at least as far as anyone can tell. That was just random and found via trial and error. And most impressively, this massive massive maze that you had a very limited amount of time to run through. Even while following this map, the map made by the community, I was only able to clear through the maze successfully with about 20 seconds left. So the fact that somebody naturally figured this out with false walls and all is just insane to me. And keep in mind, if you run out of time, if you die at any point, you need to restart from the beginning and still get through those first 2 levels every single time. This was a monumental effort by the community, and I definitely feel like that needs to be mentioned and appreciated. Either way, once you do finish this maze, 2 things will happen. You can take the elevator down to the Atom Smasher fight for the typical ending to this game, but also on the ground is an Ard wolf sign, and the symbol in the background is the Ard symbol. This is seemingly just a reference. In Wolfenstein 3D, there is a similar secret maze that ends with a sign just like this. Wolf likely references Wolfenstein 3D, and Ard is one of the castable spells in The Witcher 3, very notably being the spell you need to cast to open a secret portal and escape the room with the FF06B5 clue within it. So perhaps all of this does mean something more, but in all likelihood this is just a reference to each of those games, and the real clue to come from this maze are all of the QR codes which are scattered throughout. As you exit the game, you'll find that each of the servers now has a keypad entry on it, and it does appear that this will only show up after you successfully reach the end of the maze. So basically there's 8 codes that need to be found and be entered here, and the obvious next step are these QR codes, except they're not actually QR codes. Yeah, CDPR really didn't pull their punches when implementing this maze. Not only do you have an incredibly limited time to find all of the QR codes in the giant maze, but each one you find is actually only a section of one much larger QR code, and after being appropriately arranged by connecting the edges of each section, you find one giant missing piece. Because yes, this is only a part of the QR code. And the next step to solve this may be one of the most impressive feats of genius I've ever seen from an ARG, as it seems like the intended way to find this giant missing section is by using the Reed-Solomon codes. Solomon Reed is the main character of Phantom Liberty, played by Idris Elba, and the Reed-Solomon codes are error-correcting codes, so they're able to fill in the missing segments of the QR code. If CDPR really planned all of this out as a big connection between Solomon Reed and the FF06B5 mystery, that's insanely impressive. And either way, just the tie-ins we already are getting are really impressive. But once you finish this QR code and scan it, you'll find an unwinnable game of tic-tac-toe being written in Python. And this game will end with the line, "Game over, draw, the only winning move is not to play." There's going to be a reference to the movie War Games, where an advanced computer concludes that the only way to win in a nuclear war is to not play. And this is also true for tic-tac-toe, because if you have 2 players that know how to play tic-tac-toe, it's impossible to win. So what does that actually mean? The only winning move is not to play? Yeah, nobody really has any idea. The next step in the mystery is figuring out what codes to enter into these terminals, and that simply hasn't been found yet, at least not properly. This War Games quote almost certainly will lead to something, but where it leads isn't uncovered just yet. And as you could imagine, when it comes to all of these various keypad entries, many of the numbers and codes associated with the mystery thus far have been tried, all of those top scores, but nothing has led anywhere. Except for one. One code has been found. Do you remember how to get into the maze you need to touch all of the walls to spell out 240891? Well, entering 240 in one of these central consoles will lead to it activating. And there have been other discoveries made, like this mysterious laptop in the junkyard. This was found just hours after 2.0, and this laptop opens to see Ouroboros appear once again, this being that same continuous snake figure that appeared in the Witcher 3 clue. And eventually this will cut to rows of letters from The Witcher, which of course were immediately translated to English. And it's very likely that this is Tyromancer's own laptop. He mentions just bringing his laptop with him in that earlier email, and a short distance from the laptop a shard can be found titled "It Really Happened." I wandered a dark forest, the paths before me deliberately tangled, my steps were misled, the moon rose in a different place every night, I had to lose all hope to find the treasure at the very bottom, they tried to hide it from us but the truth refused to stay hidden. Now that I carry the key, I feel at peace, I will not run, there's no point. Their eyes see everything, those dead, glassy eyes, and the dead stars reflected in them. The key is the prize, not all deserve to hold it, I will be its guardian for what little time I have left. Polyhister will soon see the truth, what will he do with it? Accept it or choose life and the lie that it is? So it really does seem like this is a note left by Tyromancer, who is of course now deceased. And it seems like this person found the answer, at least probably, although there is one pretty caveat with all of this in that this body is very strategically placed just outside the walls of Night City's Center for Behavioral Health, a mental health facility which Tyromancer may have been at and his laptop was stowed away nearby. So perhaps there are legitimate mental health issues going on with Tyromancer and we should discount some of the revelations he's had. So at least legitimately, that's largely where things are left right now, except there's one big caveat here. The next step here is basically finding these 8-digit codes to enter into some of the terminals, but all of the code answers have already been found. Some members of the FF06B5 team were able to have the terminal output their solution using RedMod, the official mod tools available for the game. This was done during a live stream on their Discord, and while they were able to proceed to the next step, this was definitely cheating, and even when reaching out to CDPR, they had it confirmed that this is not how you were supposed to get to the next stage. So naturally, the community has asked for this to not be shared, and it may not even be the final solution. It was basically skipping a bunch of steps to get somewhere. As such, there's some videos online showing this segment of the mystery, but I'm not going to be highlighting it here because again, we haven't gotten there legitimately, and the story along the way is an imperative part of understanding what it all means. Plus again, that might not even be the final stage of the mystery. As of right now, just that one code 240 has been found out of the 8 needed, and the hunt for the rest of the codes has definitely been raging on with some pretty interesting findings. Those top score numbers pop up a lot in the game. You can find 941229, the Black Hand high score, in several missions, including one during Phantom Liberty. People have tried calling the phone numbers found on the wall in the Caliente bar in Phantom Liberty, and although Easter eggs have been found this way, none seem to be connected to this mystery. Some NPCs have been targeted and closely inspected in Night City, and there's even some theorizing about how some of the keys and the Witcher symbols could tie this all together. And some have even just taken to taking the words from some of those back and forth emails literally, like when they said we should go get drunk in Night City. So some users have tried getting drunk and looking at the FF06B5 statues out of a window, specifically getting drunk in game, although they may have also been drunk in real life, we don't actually know right now. Although there of course is one potentially massive clue that some of you have already picked up on. If you look back at that email from Tyromanta to Polyhister, he says, "That's where I saw it. A sign, FF06B5, a pixel hidden in code over 60 years old." Immediately, everyone looks at the Arasaka Tower 3D game, except this can't be 60 years old. In the game, you're portraying Johnny Silverhand raiding Arasaka Tower. He actually did that on August 20th, 2023. Obviously, Cyberpunk 2077 takes place in 2077. So that means Johnny Silverhand raided Arasaka Tower about 54 years ago, which is a far cry to the 60 plus years mentioned here. So perhaps another big clue is in some other game that is actually over 60 years old, or a pixel somewhere. And of course, very relevant to all of this is the ongoing Cyberpunk 2077 ARG. The ARG and FF06B5 kind of exist in this weird parallel world where they might be related, but they also might be completely unrelated, just two large mysteries around Cyberpunk 2077. When we last left off with the ARG, we were unable to log into this page. That's where things were left in 2019. But earlier in August, progress was finally able to be made thanks to some posts made by an anonymous user on the Cyberpunk 2077 Discord. This continued on through a variety of steps, encoding, decoding, and I want to dive deeper into this in a video coming in the future. But as of right now, you are finally able to log into this website and even access the Night Corp website as well, which will now lead you to a new Night City's Corsairs page. On this official Netwatch website, which is finally able to be logged into, there's going to be several pages of just these weird, uncomfortable images. They have a label of either being verified, not verified, or even corrupted. 4 of the images did contain a Night Corp logo and some text suggesting that something else would occur on August 16th, and that did. As then, on the proper nightcorp.net page, you could finally click this play button that we've had access to for years, but now it would actually lead you somewhere, and that being the fan page of the Night City Corsairs. Most of this website was locked down with a Netwatch warning, but if you went to the news news section and clicked on the red pinned text, you get a very simple text page from Sandra Dorset, which reads, "This is Sandra. Thank you for helping me with Night Corp. I dug out a lot of dirt on them. It'll take a minute to load. Take it to the media. Make people aware." And then over time, this connecting with dots after it will load slowly and you'll be taken to a form. This form has you entering a name and an email, and it seems like there's a specific name that has to be entered to get to the next step. So when it comes to all of this, is it one mystery or two completely separate ones? We don't really know right now, but both mysteries are progressing. And again, I'll have a deeper dive as to what's going on with the ARG coming in a future video. Otherwise, if you want to get involved with either of these, I'll have links down below to everything and where you could find out more. Otherwise, thank you for watching this video, and if you want to find out more about some hidden features in Cyberpunk, check out this video.